Well, hello out there, everybody. This is David Rovix, and this is number 4 out of 7 history and song broadcasts, and we are making our way up to very recent history, at least for me and for other people my age, but of course for a lot of younger folks this is not particularly recent history, as I keep discovering, which is how life works, I suppose. And we are doing 2001 to 2003 in this broadcast. The chat room is open if anybody feels like joining the chat room, and I'll just get on with it, starting with September 10th, 2001. This is a true story, really happened. I met the folks involved and I liked it, so I wrote a song about it called One Night in Greece.
Tell you a story, I swear it's true. It was a sunny afternoon, September 10th, 2001. We were minding our business, having fun, hanging out on the coast of Greece, a long way from the belly of the beast. We were drinking and talking and things were good, living it up as best we could. Then a yacht so big it blocked the sky entered the view of our collective eye. It was ostentatious beyond description, made old Greek ladies have conniptions. And as this bloated behemoth trundled past, we got a square view of the mast. And at the top, 10 meters high, was a sight that make the village cry. An American flag of such massive girth, it seemed to take up half the earth. Now maybe it had to do with the dictatorship, but the Greeks among us began to flip. We were women and men of various stations, an international delegation, and all of us there on the sand knew this situation couldn't stand. The yacht set down its anchor and sat there like some oil tanker. Well, we drank and talked and drank. The sun went down and then it sank. By midnight we'd reached a solution, how to deal with this air pollution. We thought we'd swim out and we'd check if there was a staircase to the deck. So we stripped down and swam out there, and sure enough there were the stairs. Then a Libyan student named Osama took the lead role in the drama. He climbed the stairs and then the flagpole. It was a sight to feed a weary soul. Hanging naked with us beneath, he bit the flag off with his teeth. And flag in hand, he jumped down, and we dragged the flag back into town. A small victory, one may note, just a flag upon a boat. Revolution it was not, but one more rich prat in his yacht might think twice before he set sail with a flag the size of a fucking whale. And our reward for this little caper? A year's supply of toilet paper.
And then, of course, the next day, the Twin Towers came down, and a terrorist attack, and I wrote a few songs about that, and this one is from sort of different first-person perspectives, and oddly enough, people often ask me at my shows, like, were you a firefighter? Or, these kinds of things, as if they must all have been first person me, but they're first person someone else. And that's, this is one called Promised Land, and which was from 2003 record called Return, with various folks, Sean Staples and others, working with me on this. And I see there's a couple of folks in the chat room. Other people who are out there, feel free to join in and just identify yourselves or where you're from or something, if you feel like not being anonymous, and or being less anonymous. Here's Promised Land.
Life could have been different. You think I don't know? I could have been born in Paris or in the Wisconsin snow. But I'm from this desert, and here I will stand. And I will meet you in the promised land. You know, I went to college to be an engineer. I thought I'd do something useful, but what good is that here? When your jet fighters bomb any buildings that stand, I will meet you in the promised land. The life of the fighter I didn't choose, but I love my people, and I can follow your cues. If destroying our world is your leader's command, I will meet you in the promised land. My name is Mohammed, but I don't know if it's true. If we go any place better when our life here is through. But you have butchered my family, you must understand. I will meet you in the promised land. I know it's not pretty, but for all that you've done, for all the widows and orphans, for all the wars that you've won, I must teach you a lesson. Maybe you'll understand. I will meet you in the promised land. So I will get in this plane, and when it's in the air, to your symbols of power and our source of despair, I will look through the cockpit, I will steady my hand, I will meet you in the promised land. I will meet you in the promised land.
And here's another from a different perspective from that same day.
I saw the plane hit the building, the flames and the billowing smoke. I saw the glass, metal, paper, and stone, everything shattered and broke. I was there with my people, Engine Company 24. We marched into the building, got as far as the 35th floor. Black smoke and the heat was like nothing I'd seen in all of my years. With each step in that burning inferno, you could feel destiny near. Amidst all of the falling girders, the sheetrock and God knows what else, I tried to find the survivors, those who made it to the stairwells. I carried the wounded to safety, if that's what you might call the street, with bodies and boulders and metal all crashing down at your feet. As number 2 was collapsing, when only 10 floors still stood, everything was falling around me like it was made out of cardboard and wood. That's when I heard someone trapped underneath the debris. I started pulling at something, and that's when the fire got me. I was pinned neath the rubble, the flames were licking my coat, the pain, the unbearable agony, and then that was all that she wrote. But I just wish I could tell you before I am taken away that I've seen a lot of this world, and there's something that I gotta say. I don't believe in politics, I believe in the human race. I believe in the goodness of people in New York or some faraway place. I believe in my daughter, and I believe in my wife, and may nobody's father be taken to avenge the loss of my life. Some people may call me a brave man, and this may very well be, but the firefighters of Kabul are just as brave men as me.
That was a really fun and surreal gig, incidentally, where that was recorded in upstate New York at the legendary folk club Cafe Lena during the sort of pre-wedding party kind of thing of a couple of friends, Brad Simpson and Kristen Sundell, there were getting married, and I didn't bring a suit, which was a terrible mistake. And then after that I got some nice clothing to wear to weddings, having been shamed into it, but entirely by myself and nobody else. Anyway, that's a not very relevant aside, but of course after the attacks on the Twin Towers, when some people thought that maybe it would mean there would be some kind of a change in direction in terms of how the U.S. does its thing, which of course there wasn't, and thus guaranteeing the next attack was coming.
The next attack is coming, I heard it on TV. Some important politicians said we've got to drive them into the sea. Round up all the Arabs, send them back from where they came. Who cares if they are citizens? They're fanatics all the same. The next attack is coming, said dictators west and east, and New York cannot rest until all the rebels are deceased. So send along those helicopters and we will shoot them all, and we'll cut social services and build a shopping mall. The next attack is coming, said the CEO, so we need to drill for oil, build more pipelines, don't you know? If these Arabs do not like it and we need the military here, the American people will support us, whether out of greed or fear. The next attack is coming, I heard an Afghan child say, my family was killed by a plane the other day, and when I grow up I will get them back. So I say beware America, here comes the next attack. The next attack is coming, said Cheney to his men, and if it doesn't, we can make one happen again. Every war we've ever been in was started with a lie, and this war is good business, so today's the day for you to die. The next attack is coming.
And it was, well, let's see, when was it? It was, I don't know, within a few months of the attacks in New York that American bombers had killed far more Afghan civilians than were killed in New York City. And, of course, the civilians of Afghanistan had nothing to do with it. And I was reading an article in The Independent by a guy named Richard Lloyd Perry, I believe is his name, R.L. Perry. I think that's his Perry anyway. And he wrote an article called "The Village Where Nothing Happened," about basically about a press conference with a Department of Defense official who was denying reality. And he had seen the village where supposedly nothing happened, and there had definitely been something that had happened there, something terrible.
The army commander spoke to the media. He said, "This is a nation of laws. We do not target civilians, and we only bomb with cause." And he said as he looked into the camera with a cold, bone-chilling stare, "As for the village of Kamado, nothing happened there." In the village where nothing happened, most people had risen from bed. Women were preparing to cook and make sure every mouth would be fed. Just before the beginning of Ramadan, water was set out to boil. Little fires were heating tin kettles upon the dry Afghan soil. In the village where nothing happened, children played in the street. Men were bending in prayer, some with no shoes on their feet. It was another day like so many that had gone down before, and nobody told Kamado just what lay in store. In the village where nothing happened, nobody knew that this place would be changed forever by an American B-52. The bombs fell all around them, so many a deafening blast, and the people of Camaro learned that life can end so fast. In the village where nothing happened, the houses collapsed in the morn. Not one terrorist died there, but maybe some were born. In the village of Camaro, there are no underground caves. There's just rubble and dust and craters, and 115 new graves.
And of course, within hours of 9/11, there was a backlash against Arabs, and honestly, the backlash that I was fearing might manifest in the streets was a lot less dramatic than what I was concerned might happen. But the backlash in terms of persecution of activists started right away, and it wasn't like it was new, but it was prison terms for all sorts of people got far more draconian even than they had been, which was draconian enough. Not only the excuse, they used the excuse of 9/11 to basically consider all sorts of different activities terrorism, whereas they would have considered them something else before, like like money laundering, or arson, or things like that. Various crimes that were relatively comparatively lower level crimes before then became terrorism. So what would have gotten you a few months or a few years in prison would now get you over a couple of decades. And one of the organizations that they started going after right away was the biggest charity, Muslim charity in the United States, the Holy Land Foundation, and within a number of years, within a few years, the 5 founding members of the organization were in prison, and they are now serving sentences of 15 to 65 years for channeling money to go to hungry people and people in need of medicine in Palestine and elsewhere, but channeling the money apparently through the wrong circuits, and which somehow made them terrorists, although they never have been accused of hurting anybody or dealing with arms or anything like that. And this is a song from my most recent physical CD, Meanwhile in Afghanistan, called Holy Land 5.
They grew up among the bombs of the occupation, bulldozed houses, that was the situation. Refugee camps, Khan Yunis and Shatila, children gunned down in the Intifada. Poverty and hunger, a place to slowly die. These 5 men decided at least they had to try. From their homes in Texas to the stateless nation, they started up the Holy Land Foundation. They sent food and medicine, that's all they ever did, aside from sending toys for little kids. Feed the hungry, they say that's a good deed, but apparently it all depends on who you want to feed. If they're living in the ghettos under IDF command, if they think they don't deserve to starve in their homeland, if Sharon said all that's theirs is mine, if they're from a place called Palestine. The Holy Land is crying out, the
leaving little room for doubt. From ruined homes, the kids ask you, what in the world will you do? They sent money to the Zakat committees, the same ones funded by USAID, but these were Arabs aiding Palestinians. They opposed the occupation and they were Muslims. Their phones were tapped for years, but nothing could be found. So with an executive order, Bush shut them down, freezing all their funds, taking food from kids. That's exactly what the US government did. These men support Hamas, the government proclaimed, although they couldn't find a cent sent in their name, but they had evidence. For the first time in a court, an anonymous Israeli would submit his report behind a veil with no right to cross-examination. He could smell Hamas. This was his explanation. First the jury hung, so they tried them again, and for feeding hungry people they were sent to prison. The Holy Land is crying out, leaving little room for doubt. From ruined homes, the kids ask you, what in the world will you do? Now 5 men are in cells, no one knows what for. Every Muslim an unindicted co-conspirator. Be careful what you say, be wary what you hear, or end up in a CMU for 65 years. Cut off from the world, held in a little box. Back home kids are getting shot for throwing rocks. No one stops the charity sending money for tanks, for illegal settlements all over the West Bank. This is justice in America. If you didn't know it, now you do. A retrial was denied, I should mention that too. A retrial was denied, who knows who's next to go, to be tortured in a little Guantanamo. The Constitution suspended, they just haven't let us know. It's easier that way, just say it isn't so. The Holy Land Foundation, you know it's true. They just did what all of us should do. The Holy Land is crying out, leaving little room for doubt. From ruined homes, the kids ask you, what in the world will you do? The Holy Land is crying out, leaving little room for doubt. From ruined homes, the kids ask you, what in the world will you do?
And of course, at the same time as they were persecuting the Holy Land Foundation, they were also, persecuting others, including one woman who they were looking into for her potential ties with the Cuban government, which they discovered were real, and I don't know if she would have gotten this kind of sentence prior to 9/11. Maybe. I'm not sure what all the precedent is for espionage sentences, but she certainly got an incredibly long sentence. Talking about the Cuban spy who grew up in the D.C. area. I think mother was from Puerto Rico, and she married a military general and rose to the highest level in the Department of Defense for Caribbean policy, I believe, and her name was Ana Belén Montes. Her name is Ana Belén Montes. She's in prison now, very much alive, but not exactly with us, because she's staying in incredibly restricted circumstances with very, very little communication with the outside world. She is one of the cell block mates of my good friend Marie Mason, who I recently visited in prison, but of course I'm unable to meet Ana Belén Montes because hardly anybody's allowed to visit her, and Marie is not allowed to talk about Ana Belén Montes, although I know she's in there because you can see that on Wikipedia, but Marie's circumstances in terms of what she's allowed to talk about are incredibly restrictive too, so that includes not talking about her cell mates or her block mates there in the Gulag in Fort Worth, Texas. But long before I ever long before Marie got arrested and became block mates with Annabelle in Montes, I wrote this song for her just about 10 years ago, 2003. This is also on the album Return.
25 years was what the judge said. Then he banged his gavel and shook his head. You've done wrong, you broke our trust. Now we caught you, and this is the bust. Now you'll spend these decades behind bars of steel. Thought you could play with us, but this is for real. You gave away secrets to the enemy. Now you'll live in prison in the land of the free. But here beneath this Cuban sun, I'd just like to thank you for all you've done. Today I'm torn apart. Ana Belenmontes, you are a spy after my own heart. I obeyed my conscience instead of the law. So you said at your secret trial, you took no money for your work. So says your declassified file. You warned the Cubans of the plans of the assassins from the U.S. Just what other good deeds you did, they may never tell us. But here beneath this Cuban sun, I'd just like to thank you for all you've done. Today I'm torn apart. Ana Belenmontes, you are a spy after my own heart. Of the DOD, you served the common good, working alone night and day. You did just what you should. Of all the great people I have known, there are few that I'd call greater than one woman who obeyed a higher law, the judge called a traitor. But here beneath this Cuban sun, I'd just like to thank you for all you've done. Today I'm torn apart. Ana Belenmontes, you are a spy after my own heart.
And on another note, it was long before 9/11 that the security state was really watching out for anybody traveling across state or international borders to go to protests. And certainly I was one of many who had lots of problems trying to get into Canada long before 9/11 to protest up there, just as lots of Canadians had lots of problems trying to get into the U.S. And same kind of thing was happening in the Schengen zone and elsewhere in the world, because the Schengen zone only exists as long as there's no big protest happening in the next country over. But I was trying to get from Montana into Alberta, and discovered in that particular attempt to cross the border, which was a failed attempt, that I was on a list. The guy at the border was very nice and showed me a piece of paper that had come out of their computer system showing that I was on a list of people to be basically told to leave if they were coming over for a protest, which is what happened to me. And I wrote this song about that experience on the Canadian border.
It was on one summer evening when I sallied forth, headed up to Calgary on the road up north. The leaders of the free world were meeting to decide the planet's fate. So there were some things I wanted to mention to this group of 8. I went up to the border and was greeted with a smile until they looked my name up and showed to me my file. The guard said that freedom Canadians hold dear, but it says right on this paper that we don't want your kind around here. So I feel I should inform you in case it's something that you missed. Now it is official, and I'm on the list. If you've ever wondered what they look like, then let me take a bow. 'Cause I'm an outside agitator, you're looking at one now. They said I had no record of crimes that they could find, but their data showed them that I might have some in mind. They copied all my papers, searched all around my truck, took my picture and informed me that I was out of luck. So I feel I should inform you in case it's something that you missed. Now it is official, and I'm on the list. If you've ever wondered what they look like, then let me take a bow. 'Cause I'm an outside agitator, you're looking at one now. I'm no Emma Goldman,
No, ma'am.
or Commandante Che,
I know.
but someone up in Ottawa thought I should be turned away. So it leaves me wondering, what have I done wrong? Perhaps it is a crime I committed in a song. So I feel I should inform you in case it's something that you missed. Now it is official, and I'm on the list. If you've ever wondered what they look like, then let me take a bow. 'Cause I'm an outside agitator, you're looking at one now. Yeah, I'm an outside agitator, you're looking at one now.
And in the same year that that happened, there was a lot of other things going on in the world, far bigger things. Among the various things that were going on, which I think were also a direct consequence to some extent of 9/11, was Israel feeling extra free, you could say, to do anything that the most wingnut elements of the leadership wanted to do. Because they had the carte blanche by the example being set by the United States in terms of how you deal with so-called terrorists. Of course, you bomb them all into submission, and which is exactly what Israel decided was the way to deal with the resistance in Palestine during the Second Intifada, was to ruthlessly invade with tanks many different cities in the West Bank and kill many, many thousands of people altogether. And this song I wrote was after the Israeli invasion of Jenin in 2002.
Child, what will you remember when you recall your 16th year? The horrid sound of helicopter gunships, the rumble of the tanks as they drew near, as the world went about its business, and I burned another tank of gasoline. Dow Jones lost a couple points that day while you were crying in the city of Jenin. Did they even give your parents warning before they blew the windows out with shells, while you hid inside the high school basement amidst the ringing of church bells, as you watched your teacher crumple by the doorway, and in England they were toasting to the Queen? You were so far from the thoughts of so many huddled in the city of Jenin. Were you thinking of the taunting of the soldiers, or of the shit they smeared upon the walls? Were you thinking of your cousin after torture, or Tel Aviv and its glittering shopping malls? When the fat men in their mansions say that you don't want peace, did you wonder what they mean as you sat amidst the stench inside the darkness in the shattered city of Jenin? What went through your mind on that day at the sight of your mother's vacant eyes, as she lay still among the rubble beneath the blue Middle Eastern skies, as you stood upon this bulldozed building beside the settlements and their hills so green, as your tears gave way to grim determination amidst the ruins of the city of Jenin. And why should anybody wonder, as you stepped on board the crowded bus across the green line, and you reached inside your jacket for the cord? Were you thinking of your neighbors' buried bodies as you made the stage for this scene, as you set off the explosives that were strapped around your waist? Were you thinking of the city of Jenin?
Of course, during those dark years, which haven't gotten much less bleak, but during those years of the Bush administration, there was at least one redeeming quality that the whole thing had, which was the comical aspect. And it is an actual fact that the Operation Iraqi Freedom, the operation to liberate Iraq, which has yet to liberate Iraq, but has certainly provided a venue for lots of arms contractors and oil companies to make lots of money anyway. The Operation Iraqi Freedom, as it's called, actually started out with a different name. I did not make this up. This is actually true. I just wrote the song, and I often would say that I wrote it with George W. Bush because he essentially gave me the hook line.
We've got a situation and it calls for a solution that upholds our domination of the planet. We're gonna make our case and we're gonna make it well. And if you don't like our logic, you can can it. We'll use impeccable intelligence from any country in the world, as long as we all see eye to eye. And if we don't find quite what we need, we know what to do. Just look into the camera and lie. It's Operation Iraqi Liberation. Tell me, what does that spell? Operation Iraqi Liberation. O-I-L. And we'll lie about the missiles and the nuclear research. We'll lie about uranium. We'll build military bases and smile for reporters as we give away bubble gum. And we'll lie about Bin Laden, his connections with the Saudis. We'll lie about 911. And we'll lie about the Baathists, their connections to Al-Qaeda, because we know there's none. It's Operation Iraqi Liberation. Tell me, what does that spell? Operation Iraqi Liberation. O-I-L. We'll lie about the North Koreans and we'll lie about Iran, and don't mention Israel. Keep those nuclear weapons out of this song. It'll all hold together swell. Now we'll liberate these people, we'll liberate their money, we'll liberate their soil. We'll liberate their airports, we'll liberate their harbors, and we'll liberate their oil. Operation Iraqi Liberation. Tell me, what does that spell? Operation Iraqi Liberation. O-I-L. Operation Iraqi Liberation. Tell me, what does that spell? Operation Iraqi Liberation. O-I-L.
And it was actually, after the big protests in all over the world, where 13 million people altogether apparently protest against the war on February 15th, 2003. I'll be getting to that actually, but we're not going exactly in chronological order here, I suppose. But right around exactly the same time that the U.S. began its latest round, starting in 2003, of bombing Iraq into the Stone Age, there was the International Solidarity Movement. It was and is very actively trying to do something about Israeli atrocities in Palestine. And one of the people who were over there, was a young woman named Rachel Corrie from Olympia, Washington, who was such a fantastic writer. I was on the ISM listserv since around the time it started, and I was. This was before blogs, and so you'd look at email lists for what people were writing, and what was. One of the writers in the ISM listserv that I was particularly attentive to was Rachel, because she was a great writer, and so I'd be getting the ISM list emails every week or whenever they came. I think it was like once a week, and then I'd be looking for Rachel's name to read whatever she had written. And so, although I never met her, as far as I know, I certainly knew who she was. And when I heard about her death there, as I was actually driving into Olympia, I guess there was a few days before I was driving into Olympia to do a show at Evergreen State College, where Rachel graduated from, where we had many mutual friends. And I also went there a bit, and I was actually just driving into the campus when I got a phone call from somebody in the West Bank asking if they could use the lyrics to this song on a website. Obviously, I said yes. I think that's what the call was about, and this is a song I wrote right around the time Rachel was killed.
When she sat down in the dirt in front of your machine, a lovely woman dressed in red, you in military green. If you had met her in Jerusalem, you might have asked her on a date. But here you were in Gaza, rolling towards the gate. As your foot went to the floor, did you recall her eyes? Did her gaze remind you that you've become what you despise? As you rolled on towards this woman and ignored all shouts to stop, did you feel a shred of doubt as you watched her body drop? As your caterpillar tracks upon her body pressed with 60 tons of deadly force, crushed the bones within her chest, could you feel the contours of her face as you took her life away? Did you serve your country well on that cool spring day? The green line back to the open shore. Was this just another day in a dirty war? When you looked out on the water, did you feel an empty void? Or was it just one more life you've taken, one more home destroyed, one more home destroyed?
And it was when Rachel, around not long after Rachel was killed. Well, a lot of other people were killed before and after, but one of them was, I believe, the 10th young boy to be killed for trying to catch songbirds too close to the border, the fence with Gaza and Israel. And catching songbirds is a fairly important little mini industry for children, because they can be sold on the market for like $10 each, and a lot of people in Arab homes keep songbirds, and this one particular child killed, I read about and wrote this song, and people wonder about some of the imagery in the song like the reference to the wood burning stove, and that actually is not. I didn't make any of this stuff up. It's they really have. It actually gets cold in the winter, and they actually burn wood in stoves to keep warm. So this is not just some kind of New England reference that I threw in there incidentally.
Was another Friday morning. I was among the olive trees, out looking for birds to catch, my father, his friends, and me. I had my string and net and a nimble eye, there beside the farmer's field where the songbirds fly. When you're catching birds, the world disappears, and 1,000 songs of autumn are all that fills your ears. They sing their songs so brightly at the dawning of the day. They fly back and forth over the fence where we must stay away. You can see the birds beneath the clouds, watch them spread their wings, listen to the wind and the song the songbird sings. It's so good to come here, so far from all the sound of all the shooting and the shouting and the tanks upon the ground. I just wish I could live here beside this olive grove, just me, my friends and family, and a small wood burning stove. You can see the birds beneath the clouds, watch them spread their wings, listen to the wind and the song the songbird sings. Last week I caught 3 sparrows, it was quite a day. Now I'm bound for glory, that's what they say. I can hear them talk about me, shedding tears upon a sack. Inside there lies a child with 4 bullets in his back. You can see the birds beneath the clouds, watch them spread their wings, listen to the wind and the song the songbird sings. You can see the birds beneath the clouds, watch them spread their wings, listen to the wind and the song the songbird sings.
And as I mentioned before, something else that was very much happening in those post 9/11 years was and continues to be the serious persecution of the radical environmental movement, people that have done a lot of taking of direct action in the form of doing damage to corporate property that's attempting to do damage to our lives in the form of genetic research and logging and building mansions where there should be forests and stuff like that. And so this kind of thing, Earth Liberation Front activity, used to get people a few years if they got caught, which of course is terribly enough, but then since 9/11 the sentences have been astronomically increased, and of course my friend Murray Mason is doing 22 and a half years at the FMC Carswell and Fort Worth, and there are other people serving extremely long sentences. They passed a law to try to criminalize speaking about these kinds of activities. Basically, they passed a law that made it a crime, an eco-terrorism offense with 25-year minimum sentence if you talked about how to make an incendiary device and talked about it in the context of liberating animals or the environment. That was considered and is considered to be eco-terrorism. Rod Coronado tried to take it to trial. There was a hung jury. He accepted a plea bargain and went to prison for a year, since they were threatening him with 25. There have been 4 other people that I know of who have gone to prison with plea bargains, who have been threatened with this law, this speech law, people going to prison for speech. This is people who have not done any property destruction or anything else, although Rod had gone to prison for other property crimes in the past. He had done his time and all that, but now he went back to prison for speech, along with various other people, such as one guy who had that website, raiseyourfist.org, I believe, in Los Angeles, a young guy, and several others. And after I found out about this law, and while Rod Coronado was in prison as a result of this law, I wrote this song.
Rodney Coronado was arrested for a speech that he gave one evening by the San Diego beach. He stated his opinions, they sounded just like mine. Now they want to put him behind bars till 2029. Prosecutor said the problem was the speech showed intent. I couldn't figure out exactly what that meant. You can't describe an action, say you thought that it was swell. So what'll happen when we sing this? Who the heck can tell? But we don't like the condo and we're gonna burn it down. Corporate terrorists drive them out of town. We'll bring a lot of gasoline, pour it on the floor, light a match, say a prayer, and run right out the door. Burn it down. Burn it down. Burn it down. Burn it down. We're going to burn it down. 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 If you just sang that chorus, then you just broke the law to be an eco-terrorist. Now you just gotta flap your jaw. And hey, who knows, by the time you have a chance to blink, whether you're a criminal might depend on what you think. But we don't like the bulldozer, we're gonna burn it down. Corporate terrorists drive them out of town. We'll bring a lot of gasoline, pour it on the floor, light a match, say a prayer, and run right out the door. Burn it down. Burn it down. Burn it down. Burn it down. We're going to burn it down. 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 First they came for Rod, made me next to come for you. Let me tell you what I think all of us should do. Sing the song with me, raise your fist and caterwaul. If we fight together, they can't arrest us all. Cause we don't like the Walmart and we're gonna burn it down. Corporate terrorists drive them out of town. We'll bring a lot of gasoline, pour it on the floor, light a match, say a prayer, and run right out the door. Burn it down. Burn it down. Burn it down. Burn it down. We're going to burn it down. 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 Burn it down.
And one of the people who was originally sentenced to over 2 decades in prison but was let out after only 9 years in prison was Jeffrey Lewis, who went by the name Free, still does. was living and once again lives around Eugene, Oregon, and was put in prison for torching an SUV dealership in Eugene. And I wrote this poem about him while he was in prison, and I was very honored to get a note back from him saying that he had shared it with his parents, and he thought that was the first time they understood what he was doing in there. And I hope that's true, but in any case, this is a poem I wrote about him while he was in prison.
I grew up in the land of houses in rows. I had asthma. That's how it goes when you're in L.A. and there are cars everywhere. See the sky and smell the air. I left home, looked around, trying to find some solid ground. I found life in the northern wood, and I knew that this was good. I saw the dozers, the death machines, tearing apart everything green. I built a platform, sat in a tree, said if you're taking her down, then you're taking down me. I saw the highways, I saw the mall, I saw the eagle, heard the clarion call. Voices of reason were talking to me, so I burned down a couple of SUVs. Among the words and the deeds in the war for the West, a chapter was written, and I was the test, to shut us all up and drive us apart, all who have life and love in our hearts. The judge did the math, then he did some more. He was a man out to settle a score, an illegal sentence in a stolen land, with life or death in the palm of his hand. And now, here I am, so long behind bars, for trying to breathe in a nation of cars. Sanity jailed, and madness in power. Our time it is short, and now is the hour. So may you hide in the darkness, and stay safe in the night. Find whatever you need to stay in the fight. There's a planet at stake. That's all I see, and my thoughts will be with you until I am free.
And still sticking with 2003, we had one of the biggest single days of protest in the world history on February 15th, 2003. And I was singing at the protest in New York City that day, and I heard about events in London, and I wrote a song about the protests that happened that day in London, England.
The president came to London, was greeted by the Queen. For the people of the city, it was a festive scene. Hundreds of thousands of women and men were all in the street, shouting and dancing and talking and marching on their feet. But the highest peak of the evening, to be only fair, was when the statue of George Bush was toppled in Trafalgar Square. Those days in London was the place to be. Young and old, black and white, was the face of society. Even the mayor came out, called him a criminal of war. Said world domination ain't worth fighting for. They said we don't like W or his poodle, Tony Blair. On the day the statue of George Bush was toppled in Trafalgar Square. The night sky was lit up, and the message, it was clear. We do not want fascism over there or over here. It was heard firsthand by many right there on British soil. We will not fight for Exxon, we won't kill or die for oil, but for billions around the planet. We were all right there when the statue of George Bush was toppled in Trafalgar Square. When the statue of George Bush was toppled in Trafalgar Square.
And there were some eloquent denunciations of George W. Bush from many different quarters, including from other basically right-wing politicians who were not quite as right-wing as Bush, such as one in Canada who lost her job because of calling George Bush a certain name, which is kind of a cheap shot, but, you know, what the heck, I wrote a song about it.
Françoise Ducrot lost her job as Director of Communications. She was representing Canada at a meeting of the NATO nations when she had the gall to say what was very clear, something everybody knew, which they didn't want to hear. In the global mafia, there's no doubt who's the Don, but everybody knows that George Bush is a moron. Maybe you voted for him because you like to shoot your gun, or perhaps you own an oil company and you're happy that he won. Well, if that is the case, you know you've got to take it on the chin and thank the gods for the doctors of the spin, because if it weren't for sound bites, then just like his Uncle Ron, there'd be no one left who could deny that George Bush is a moron. He protested and said it wasn't fair. He didn't even win the vote, he should not be in there. But maybe you still have some dignity and you try to put on the best face, cause you just can't come to grips. Seems like it just shouldn't be the case. It's as if there's this really stupid cop with a nuclear baton. Not only is he evil, but George Bush is a moron. Perhaps you're hoping you can make it to the end. Just a few more years and we'll be around the bend. If the world is still standing, not yet blown up into pieces, with a rally at the ballot box, we can see that this nightmare ceases. Till you look over your shoulder at what might happen when he's gone. Once it captures your attention that John Kerry is a moron.
So my phone is ringing, but I think it says unknown, and that means, usually it means it's this guy calling to tell me I'm a jerk, or it's Marie Mason calling up from prison, but I guess I'll have to hope she can call back if it's her. And I know she's not listening to my radio show because she can't get online. But anyway, so, well, me and Peter Werby were just visiting her in prison a couple weeks ago, and me and Peter Werby were also in Florida together 10 years ago during the Free Trade Area of the Americas talks in Miami, and that was when the security state in the U.S. had been using extreme police brutality against people protesting for many years before that, but they really stepped it up to an outrageous and surreal degree in Miami in 2003. And some folks, mostly from New York City Indie Media, made an excellent documentary called The Miami Model, basically laying out what they were doing there. And I was there with Peter and thousands of other people attempting to protest in a city that had been completely shut down by the police and was completely controlled by the police, and also really surreal mass media coverage, which was trying to make peaceful protesters look like thugs of some kind, talking about scuffles when it was actually clearly police just unprovoked attacking people. And I had a lot of surreal experiences during that time, which I've written about a little bit here and there. But it was a time when prior to the protests in Miami, there had been some significant efforts for the labor movement and the anti-capitalist movement to start actually working together a bit more, which makes sense. But there were a lot of divisions, and after folks got together in Seattle during the WTO protests, there were divisions after that because of among other things, because of perceptions of the Black Bloc and the union movement not wanting to be affiliated with this sort of thing, quite understandably. And that stuff was difficult to work out, but had more or less been worked out. And then when there was going to be a big event in D.C. that would involve lots of civil disobedience on the part of union members as well as the anti-capitalist movement, and then 9/11 hit, and then the meetings, IMF World meetings, got canceled, and that never happened. And then with the free trade area of the Americas talks, which were not very successful from the capitalist perspective because of the interventions of people like Hugo Chavez. But on the outside of the talks and the protests happening there, there was just just horrible levels of police brutality, and mostly against young people and who were there to protest. And there were lots of union people there who were getting all kinds of harassment from the police, but not getting attacked to the same extent. And there was one particular incident that I heard about from Dave Blakeney with the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, who was there with the Canadian Labour Congress. Heard a little anecdote which was sort of distressing and also heartwarming at the same time. There were all these young people out there getting attacked by the police, and this may have been at the same time that I was inside the stadium singing for like 200 people, and there were supposed to be a hell of a lot more than 200 people there, but they wouldn't let most people in. So I was there, and this meeting's happening. Well, I mean, the union people are in this hotel, and outside the hotel, the police are attacking people, and then one of the American AFL officials is asked, I think Dave or somebody else from the Canadian Union asks, says, look, they're being attacked out there, and then what should we do? And one of the Americans said, oh, those aren't our people. And then one of the Canadians said, yes, they are, and 100 members of the Canadian Labour Congress walked out into the street and stood between the kids and the police backed down.
Leaders of the world had gathered to make the planet freer for free trade, to create a better business climate for all the profits they had made. Surrounded by an army, there for their defense, armed with APCs and copters and lots of common sense. Behind a fence, behind a wall that shouts you shall not pass. Broken skulls, plastic bullets, and 1,000 gallons of tear gas. And the world leaders kept on talking behind the moat upon the hill, and they boasted of prosperity in their latest free trade bill. They thank God, they thank Boeing, they thank the World Bank, they thank the firepower of the M1 tank. They defended their positions and the glory of their class, with broken skulls, plastic bullets, and 1,000 gallons of tear gas. On the streets we chanted, we have no clubs or guns. We've just come to tell the people the evil ways this system runs. But the truth can set us free, the rulers all knew well. So they drowned the truth with copters and the ringing of the bell, with their tasers on our bodies and our faces in the grass. broken skulls, plastic bullets, and 1,000 gallons of tear gas. Cameras hid behind the lines, 500,000 men in blue. When the rich men moved their lips, they recorded them on cue. The occupation of a city by an army of police wasn't worthy of a mention from the reporters of the piece. Neither were the wounded children or the boarded glass, or the broken skulls, plastic bullets, and 1,000 gallons of tear gas.
And the sort of chief thug in charge of the massive police operation in Miami was John Timoney, who had been head of the New York City subway police when they were killing lots of people back in the 90s. And then he had, after developing a reputation for dealing with protesters and other riffraff brutally, he became popular among the ranks of the elite, and he was hired to be chief of police in Philadelphia just prior to the Republican National Convention there, and then prior to the FTAA in Miami, he was hired in Miami. So certainly there's a lot of makers of weaponry and also people like him who have benefited tremendously from the police crackdowns against the anti-capitalist movement, and he is now training the police in Bahrain, which is hilarious in a way. That of course he's brought there because he's supposedly from this democratic country that knows how to treat protesters like democratically. Which apparently means with lots of tear gas and clubs and visits to the hospital. And so this song is basically another song in a series of songs about that phenomenon and this man in particular.
Wanna have a protest in the USA, wanna speak your mind in the American way. If there are some rich white men with whom you disagree and thought you have the right of assembly, there's a man you should know, 'cause he will follow you wherever you go. John Timoney, butcher for hire, he's a brutal thug and a dirty liar. He's a cop among cops, a man among men, and oh my God, he's back again. He'll protect our freedom in his own special way by smashing in your face today. He'll spray tear gas in your eyes, he'll look into the camera and tell lies, and if you complain the deal is raw, he will declare martial law. John Timoney, butcher for hire, he's a brutal thug and a dirty liar. He's a cop among cops, a man among men, and oh my God, he's back again. He'll ban dancing, he'll ban art, he'll ban medics on go-karts, he'll ban meetings, he'll ban signs, he'll ban circles, he'll ban lines. He'll stand up upon his throne and say, go back to your free speech zone. John Timoney, butcher for hire, he's a brutal thug and a dirty liar. He's a cop among cops, a man among men, and oh my God, he's back again. But someday he'll meet his end, he's already halfway round the bend. He'll take stock of what he's done, stare at the notches on his gun. He'll look into the mirror and at his poor wife and say, oh my God, I've been a scumbag my whole life. John Timoney, butcher for hire. He's a brutal thug and a dirty liar. He's a cop among cops, a man among men, and oh my God, he's back again. John Timoney, butcher for hire. He's a brutal thug and a dirty liar. He's a cop among cops, a man among men, and oh my God, he's back again.
Well, I'm reaching the end of 2003, and I'm gonna leave this show off at this point and continue next week. A week from now, I'll be doing part 5, and then and a couple weeks after that, part 6, and at the last Sunday of December, part 7, which will be all about 2013, sort of year in review kind of thing. And it's been a pleasure, and thanks all those folks for joining us in the chat room, and yeah, condolences for all the people killed yesterday in the middle of the night in Glasgow at the pub there, by the police helicopter of all things. And if anybody wants to support my work in the show and stuff like that, you are welcome to go to davidrovix.com and click on donate or click on subscribe, and keep on keeping on. And any of you who are in Washington State or British Columbia, I hope to see you in the next couple of weeks when I'll be up there I mean, I guess I'm doing a private house show in Seattle, so I might not see many of you there, but in BC I'll be doing 3 shows in Vancouver Island and the city of Vancouver, and then in January, if anybody's listening from Ireland, I'll be in Ireland, all over Ireland, and definitely have free dates to do other shows. I got shows in Belfast and quite likely Dublin and Cork, although that's still in the process of getting figured out. And I'll also be in New York City next month in January, and I'll be doing stuff at the People's Music Network gathering in Queens and Manhattan, and broadcasting live here on Spreaker for some of that, and also I have a free date for a show somewhere in the New York area if anybody out there in New York might be interested or willing to organize something. And in February I'll be in California and also looking to do shows there, and April and May in Europe, and I'm booking for that too. So there you have it, and thanks for listening, and all you who are listening live or listening later, and hope to see you next week for part 5. And I will leave you off with one more song, which could go with different years, but I wrote it after the massacre in 2003 at Virginia Tech, and although there have been many other massacres, similar massacres, but that was, and I believe still is, the biggest single massacre of its type in the United States, and in terms of school massacres anyway. There have been bigger massacres, but then to find bigger massacres, then you'd have to include the Indian Wars or the Civil War or something like that, or maybe not, actually, come to think of it. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921, was it? I guess there's been lots, but in terms of the school massacres, Virginia Tech was the biggest, and that was in 2003. And I'll leave you with this cheery little ditty about that, and hope to see you on the road and in the streets and on the airwaves.
For all the times you sat around the dinner table, for all your paintings that they put up on the wall, for all the times they'd read to you a fable, for all the times they'd come each time you'd call, for all the times you showed up in new clothing, for all the times you showed off your new tan, for all the times you went off on vacation, driving off in your camper van, for all the times when I was left with nothing to show. I'm taking someone with me when I go. I'm taking someone with me when I go. For all the things you said when you thought I couldn't hear, for all the times you talked as if I wasn't there, for the way your perfect smile always turns into a cheer, for all the times you thought that I just didn't care, for every jock who walked the halls with a girl on each arm, for every line of coke that got them to his car, for every time you drove past shouting out the window, for every wound that didn't have a scar, for every time I thought you reaped the seeds you sow. I'm taking someone with me when I go. I'm taking someone with me when I go. For every time you went to church in false humility, for every time you bent your knees and prayed, for every time you gloated that this was your lot in life, that it was just your destiny to have it made, for each time you mocked me, thought I'd never get you back, for each time you thought I was no one, for soon I will be remembered and you will be no more by the time this school day is done. You can call me Dylan Jack or you can call me Cho, taking someone with me when I go. Taking someone with me when I go.